Welcome into this edition of College Football Smothered and Covered. My name's Barrett Salee. I appreciate you checking out the show. We're having a good time here on College Football Smothered and Covered. Big things popping, including a coach interview this week from a coach who, let's just say he's moving neighborhoods, moving to a bigger, much nicer neighborhood with property values that are just a wee bit higher. So prepare for that for later in the week. Like I say every week, if you're new here, like, subscribe, watch, share, leave a review. If it's positive or negative, I want to know, because constructive criticism is something that we like here on College Football Smothered and Covered, because there are college football podcasts everywhere. They are everywhere these days. I want you to listen to all of them. I want you to listen to every single one. I want you to watch every single one across the Believe Network, anybody on the CBS 24/7, on 3, all of those, because college football is undercovered and we need to change that. We need to change that right now or tomorrow or yesterday or whenever, because you deserve the best college football coverage that you can get. Now, we do have a busy show, a lot of spring games over the weekend. We'll talk about what that means. Or does it mean anything? We'll see. Ohio State fans, we're going to talk about Ohio State spring game coming up in just a second. You can get this bad boy from Breaking Tea. Go to breakingtea.com/smothered and covered. Breaking Tea has you covered with all kinds of shirts. Shirts that come out 2 hours, 1 hour after something big happens. Basic shirts like this, Ohio State football with the helmet. Very cool. Ohio State fans would love that. Legacy shirts for players of the past who you might remember and want to commemorate in t-shirt form. Go to breakingtea.com/smothered and covered to get that. So before we get into the Ohio State spring game, I have thoughts on spring games in general. About 10 years ago, they were huge. They were massive. You had Ludacris playing at Georgia. You had Vanilla Ice playing at Florida State. There was this sudden need to outdo everybody else in terms of spring game attendance and all this stuff. But it seems like now we don't have that. We don't have that. Why? Well, I think fans realized that the product on the field was kind of boring. Quarterbacks were tackled if you got in the same zip code as them. Coaches didn't want to unveil too much of their offense because, let's be honest, there are cameras. The advent of conference channels made things a lot more difficult to keep things under wraps. And college football coaches are the most paranoid people on the planet. The most paranoid across any business, across any organization. So I think slowly but surely you saw these things sort of regress into just basic practices. And ultimately, I don't think a lot of coaches like that, because you feel sort of obligated to appease the fan base that paid a lot of money to come watch you practice, but you don't really want to do anything different than what you've been doing before. So how do you fix it? Well, I think to me, it's pretty simple. The NCAA can't count this practice towards one of the allotted 15. Just don't count it. And make it a celebration. Make it an autograph session for players benefiting NIL. Make it a skills competition with whoever, like quarterbacks tossing, the Dr. Pepper challenge or whatever. Do that and have fans interact with the players. And a lot of these spring games also coincide with big baseball games on campus, big softball games on campus, series. Have all of that there, because you need to promote your entire athletics department, right? If you're, let's just say, Alabama, and you're playing Auburn in a weekend baseball series, a lot of people aren't going to really go to that. Yeah, sure. Alabama fans will. There are Alabama fans that are local who are like, yeah, let's go to the Auburn series. That'll be fun. But you're not getting fans from out of town. If there was a spring game or a spring celebration, you absolutely would. Now, there are schools that still boast about attendance. Ohio State had a ton. Nebraska generally does. I don't know what their situation was this year, but generally Nebraska fans show up. And you get them, Georgia had some yesterday, Alabama had some yesterday, or I'm sorry, this past weekend. So, you still have that, but the luster is just not there. So that's how I would fix it. Speaking of Ohio State, though, they did not name a starting quarterback after the spring game. Why? Well, to keep everybody on campus. One, they've got 4, maybe even 5 guys who are contending for that job. One of them is Will Howard. You got Devin Brown. Saw Devon White on a baseball card earlier in my office. Never mind. Neither here nor there. Aaron Nolan, Julian Sayin. So if you're Ryan Day, you want to keep all those guys around. It's a rich man's problem. You want to keep those guys around. But I think in this case, he just doesn't know. He just doesn't know what he's got. And I think for Ohio State, you kind of want somebody to leave because you need to get your number one meaningful reps, right? You need to get your number one meaningful reps at some point. So I believe after the portal window opens, you're going to have Will Howard, Julian Sayin, Aaron Nolan. Those are going to be the contenders. Could I be wrong? Yeah. And like I've said countless times, that would be the wrong move. You need to keep Devin around. Will Howard is not going to lead Ohio State to the promised land. He might lead them to a playoff, but he is not the kind of guy who can win a national championship. And let's be honest, what is the goal now for Ohio State? It is to win a national championship. It is national championship or bust. They have the same feeling around them as Georgia back in 2021 when everybody came back. They could have gone to the pros, but everybody came back and there was hashtag unfinished business. They have the same feeling around like what Florida State had last offseason when all these guys could have gone to the pros, but they came back. Now, they didn't win a national championship through no fault of their own. The committee kind of screwed them. And even if you don't believe the committee screwed them, still won every game, right? They still did what they were supposed to do. The players did. And that's what's most important. So I think right now, if you're Ohio State, you're okay with no one's going to name a starting quarterback. But if I'm a fan of Ohio State, I'm looking around going, man, Ryan Day better have a plan A, plan B, and plan C, because the portal window's opening tomorrow and it's going to get busy. It's going to get busy. There are going to be Ohio State quarterbacks that get offered a lot of money. Mark my words. They're going to get a lot of money offered their way. And they already did from Ohio State. I don't have any qualms about that. But it's going to be pretty interesting up there in Columbus. Also interesting, feeling strong, Utah quarterback Cam Rising plays in the spring game. Ladies and gentlemen, this might be the most important development in the Big 12 this year. It's not the Arizona, Colorado going to the conference. It is that Utah is bringing its quarterback into the conference, because Cam Rising, when he's healthy, is one of the most important, maybe the best quarterback in the Big 12. And he's one of the best in the country. So you put him in a conference with a hard-nosed coach like Kyle Whittingham. And we heard from Kyle Whittingham on my Sirius XM show on Sunday. And one thing that was asked, which I think is very interesting, is how do you bring your philosophy, your style into the Big 12? And obviously the first thing mentioned is the line of scrimmage, which fine, should be. And that is their identity. But you combine that with a wide open offense with a quarterback as dynamic as Cam Rising, if he's healthy, or if he's just back to 90%, because he's that good. Utah instantly jumps to either the best or second best team in the Big 12, along with Oklahoma State. They're interchangeable in my mind right now. Because who else is there? Arizona? I'm kind of torn on Arizona. Pete's a good quarterback, but I'm not necessarily sold on what they can do. Losing Jed Fish is such a big deal. It's such a big deal. Could it be TCU? Maybe. But there are a lot of maybes that I'm saying right now. Could it be Baylor? Maybe. Could be Baylor. I don't know. What I do know is that Utah is going to be in that conversation and probably leading that conversation. So if you don't remember or weren't paying attention to what Cam Rising did at Utah when healthy, go back and watch 2 years ago. Go back and watch the Pac-12 champion. Go back and watch what they do with that offense. Because, yes, they're tough at the line of scrimmage. That's always the case. But when you combine that with what the offense became with a dynamic quarterback like that, Utah, to me, is going to gobble up one of those 12 playoff bids, one of those at-large spots. I'd be floored if Utah doesn't. And they might win the Big 12 and be a top 4 team in the playoff. Cam Rising's healthy. It's going to be hard to argue that. Reminder, go to breakingt.com. breakingt.com/smothered and covered. Wear the moment with what they provide. They have fantastic college football shirts, but it's not just college football shirts. They've got Braves shirts. They've got Major League Baseball shirts. They've got mugs. They've got all kinds of stuff. And you can get it. breakingt.com/smothered and covered. This is a little bit of an abbreviated show. I failed to mention that earlier in the show because I've got some cool things coming with the Epilepsy Foundation of Georgia. As you probably know, you might not know, I have epilepsy. So got a couple meetings with that crew to try to bring awareness and things like that. So that's why this is a little bit of an abbreviated show. But this is pretty cool. Arizona State hires Hines Ward. To me, I saw this. I'm like, man, are we back in the Herm Edwards days? Because, when he got that job, Antonio Pierce came with him. All this NFL influence came in to the program. And now Kenny Dillingham's hiring Hines Ward. It's like, wait a minute. I've seen this story before. But I love this for Arizona State. You go into a conference that is almost exclusively Southwest teams, right? Or Southern teams, I should say, across the entire country. From Arizona State all the way to Florida. From Arizona to Florida, I should say. The state of Florida with Central Florida. Why not go get somebody that a lot of players either recognize or know as one of the best receivers of all time? I don't know if he's a good receivers coach. I have no idea. I have absolutely no clue if Hines Ward can actually coach wide receivers. I know he was a good player. I know he was a good receiver in his day. I don't know if he can coach him. Doesn't matter. His presence does more. His presence on that coaching staff does way more than whatever he can do as a coach. Because these kids, when they're getting visits from Hines Ward in high school, whether they know him or not, whether they know Hines Ward or not, their parents are going to look around and be like, holy crap. Oh my goodness, Hines Ward is sitting in my living room right now. And so whether the kid understands it or not, he is going to hear all about it when Hines Ward leaves. And that matters. There's no doubt that matters. And you've seen programs do this too. There are other programs that go out and hire assistants who have never done this, but have name recognition, brand name recognition. And so that's what the idea is here. And I guarantee you this is going to work. Because Arizona State's one of those programs where I'm sitting around going, why aren't you better? You should be better. I want to shake them. Same way I want to shake UCLA and Texas A&M and be like, y'all figure this out. It's like that GIF, and it's not GIF, it's GIF, of the dude in the denim shirt, Denim Dan. I think it's at the Silverdome, where he's just like, figure it out. That's what Arizona State is to me. This is a step that they might be. And I love Kenny Dillingham. I think it's going to work. I think it's going to work as long as he has the patience. Because think about it. You're in Tempe, right next to Phoenix. Phoenix and Arizona in general has a lot of really good players, high school players coming up. You've seen the influx of players from Arizona. You've got a great program, a great a location to sell to transfers. Phoenix is beautiful, man. It is beautiful out there. So I'm excited to see what happens here with Arizona State. UNLV announces new contract for Coach Barry Odom. 5 years for the former Missouri coach. To me, this is recognition that what Barry Odom did, turning that program around, they were awesome last year. Turning that program around, that they're willing to spend what they need to spend. They're willing to dedicate what they need to dedicate to their staff. Because they've already got a great stadium. Legion Stadium, the big Roomba, just off the strip, is phenomenal. Yeah, it's an NFL stadium, but if you're UNLV, you sell that. It's one thing to sell Tampa, to sell the Ray J, which I know USF's getting a new stadium, but to sell the Ray J, it's another thing to sell Allegiant Stadium and look across the highway and be like, look at all those lights and lasers. That's the strip. There's a lot of stuff to do over there. Training facility right off the strip. Now Barry Odom's got a 5-year deal. Is he going to coach throughout the duration of that 5-year contract? No. Somebody's going to hire him. Some schools almost hired him last year. But I love the fact that Barry Odom got this. I love the fact that UNLV is dedicating itself the way it should. Because, again, kind of like Arizona State from a group of 5 level, that team should be Boise State, right? It should be in that mix every single year for a New Year's Six bid. I firmly believe that. I think UNLV could become a powerhouse, should be a powerhouse. And this goes a long way towards actually attaining what should be the goal all along. So I'm excited to see that. So what's next on this show? Like I said, abbreviated edition today. And I apologize for that. But we have a coach coming on who I think will be very interesting for those of you who enjoy discussing transfers to, not talking to player transfers, talking about coaching transfers, program transfers to new conferences, stepping it up a notch. You're going to like what's coming later in the week. Also, throughout the course of the week, the window's opening. What do I think is going to happen in the transfer portal window? All right. I've talked to a lot of people about this. It is going to be busy. Way busier than it was last year. Not for quarterbacks. There'll be a few. I think Ohio State's going to lose one, maybe 2. You're going to see decent quarterbacks in there because A, there'll be some money involved, and B, a lot of big-time quarterbacks at big-time schools can start and succeed at lower-tier Power 4 schools. So you're going to see a lot of those. But man, the receivers, the cornerbacks, the defensive and offensive linemen, it will be almost impossible to keep track of what's going on. And that's why I think a lot of these way too early top 25s, it's like, y'all, what are we even doing here? We don't even know whose roster, who these players are on. No clue. But prepare yourselves. The next 2 weeks, toward the end of the month, I'm talking about just chaos. And all of you people, if you're watching this or you're listening to this and you're one of those traditionalists and you're like, man, I hate this, blah, blah, blah. This isn't real college football. Transfer portal's ruining college football. And I'm saying that voice. I don't know why I'm using that voice. But if that is your mindset of what the new era of college football has become, I'd go take a 2-week nap. Just go take a 2-week nap because things are about to get wild. Not for quarterbacks, but for players, skill players all over the country. That will do it for this edition of College Football Smothered and Covered. Appreciate you guys checking out the show. Reminder, subscribe, YouTube, Rumble, Apple, Spotify, wherever. Share the show. 5-star review, 1-star review, positive review. I don't care. Negative, it doesn't matter. 5 stars, 1 stars, good review, bad review. Do whatever you want. I like to see it. So until next time, enjoy your day. Enjoy your afternoon. We'll talk to you soon.